Hello everyone, I'm Kushal from Indeed Inspiring and we are watching machine learning tutorials. Today's topic is hypothesis. So let us try to understand what exactly is hypothesis. Hypothesis is a tentative solution to a problem. For example, if you want to run an election and you have a party A and there is another party B, based upon your assumption, based upon the kind of responses you get from people, you say that I'm going to win. So this is a hypothesis because this is an assumption you have made based upon the available facts and figures and what you are able to sense. Now, this assumption is based on some survey, that is literature survey. This is proposed explanation for a phenomena. So in our case, the phenomena is the election is going to happen and one is going to win, another is going to lose, or there could be a tie as well. So in this particular phenomena, your hypothesis is that I am going to win. Another definition says a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidences as a starting point for further investigation, which means that this is just the start. This is just the beginning. So we further needs to understand whether you are going to win or you are going to lose. But as a starting point, you have an assumption that you will win. Okay, let's try to understand. In research, a hypothesis is a statement of expectation or prediction that will be tested by research. Again, this means that initially we make an assumption. In mathematics, you must have seen that we do x is equal to 10. So suppose x is equal to 10, or we say that suppose LHS is equal to RHS, and then we solve the whole problem. After solving the whole problem, we come to a conclusion whether LHS is really equal to RHS or they are not equal. So this is how hypothesis helps us in testing a particular scenario, a phenomena, and we come to a conclusion that whether the hypothesis which we have created is true or false. Moving ahead, these hypotheses have two types. One is null hypothesis and the second one is alternate hypothesis. If I take an example that I'm going to win up to $1,000, this is my null hypothesis. It is also represented as H naught. So an alternate hypothesis to this hypothesis would be I'm going to win more than $1,000. So you can see that alternate hypothesis is opposing. It is not the exact, but it is opposing the null hypothesis. So this is how null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis are created. Let's understand more examples and understand the purpose of these hypotheses. Now here we can see some examples of null hypothesis. Hyperactivity is unrelated to eating sugar. Now, if I want to create alternate hypothesis for this, I will say hyperactivity is related to eating sugar. Another example is all daisies have same number of petals. Alternate hypothesis would be all daisies doesn't have the same number of petals. Then the number of petals in a household is unrelated to the number of people living in it. The alternate hypothesis would be the number of pets in a household is related to the number of people living in it. And the last example we have in this slide is a person's preference for a shirt is unrelated to its color. The alternate hypothesis for this would be a person's preference for a shirt is related to its color. So this is how null and alternate hypotheses are created. Either of them would be true. For example, if null hypothesis is true, then we will say that the assumption we made is actually true. We have found enough evidences, enough facts and figures which proves that the null hypothesis, the assumption is true. But if we don't find enough evidences, then we may reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternate one. Now let us move ahead and take some more examples of if-then hypothesis. First example is, if you get at least 6 hours of sleep, you will do better on tests rather if you get less sleep. If you drop a ball, it will fall toward the ground. If you drink coffee before going to bed, then it will take longer to fall asleep. If you cover a wound with a bandage, then it will heal with less scarring. So these are again hypothesis assumptions, which are if then format assumptions. Very important thing now. Hypothesis needs to be testable. If you are not able to test the hypothesis, then we will lose the purpose of creating a hypothesis. So now let us try to understand that how we can make a hypothesis testable by taking an example. By looking at the image, you must have understood that I'm talking about food now. If you are foodie, you will really like this example. If you eat a lot of greasy food, lot of oily food, and then you say that eating greasy food causes pimples. This might happen because while eating, you might have got pimples, you might have got breakouts. So if you get pimples after eating greasy food, you will make a hypothesis that eating greasy food causes pimples. This is the hypothesis. Now understand. Now you can do one experiment. Don't eat greasy food, oily food, fatty food for a week's time, and then try to observe what happens to your face. Okay. So if you continue to avoid the greasy food, fast food where a lot of oil is there, then after that, there's a possibility that you may not get the breakouts. But can we conclude that eating greasy food causes the pimples or breakouts? No, we cannot, because we have so many things. We have hormone levels, we have exercises we do, we have the stress level, we have the sunshine. So many factors are there which actually are behind getting a pimple. So how to conclude that it was just the act of eating fatty food, greasy food caused the pimple? It is difficult, right? So here we have a problem, and the problem is that we are not able to assign the cause to the effect, the input to the output. If we are not able to assign the cause to the effect, in that case, what will happen? We cannot prove. The hypothesis is not proved. So we have one more method. We can disprove it. Correct. We can disprove it because it might be because of salt, potato diet, might be with due to anything that pimple has come. So let us try to reformulate the hypothesis and let us try to disprove that. Now the new hypothesis we have is getting pimples is unaffected by greasy food. Getting pimples is unaffected by greasy food. So this is alternate to the first one. We will try to disprove it. Now, again, if you do the same activity, what activity? 1 week you can consume, another week you can completely avoid. So now if you eat and that time you suffer breakouts, then if you continue to eat but you don't suffer any kind of breakouts, now what will you conclude? It is strange, no? Yes, it is not strange. It's basically, it is not just because of greasy food we get pimples. There are so many other factors also, which we are not considering in this particular example. And therefore, this particular test, this particular hypothesis is also not testable because we are not able to prove it, whether we are getting pimples because of the greasy food or we are not getting because of the greasy food. So we can't prove or disprove this. So if we can't prove or disprove it, it is completely fine. It is completely fine. Okay, there can be cases where with lack of parameters, we will not be able to come to a conclusion, which is fine. But now we understood that we need to make the hypothesis testable so that we can test it. After that, we have hypothesis space, which is called as all possible set of solutions. So space means all the possibilities, whatever number of possibilities are there, that comes under space. Hypothesis space means all the set of possible functions or solutions which can be given by an approach or a model or an algorithm. So by applying a model or algorithm, whatever number of solutions we may have, that is called as hypothesis space. For example, if you know artificial neural network, there we have one perceptron. So one perceptron can only return function that map every point on one side of a hyperplane to 0 and the other side to the 1. So it is just mapping to 0 and 1. So whatever number of functions are there, they are doing the same activity. So those number of functions here, in this case, they are hypothesis space. The example we began with, we started with the example of election. So if you're running an election, in that case, one possibility is you win, another possibility is the other party win, another possibility is there would be a tie. So these are the three possible solutions which we have. This creates the whole hypothesis space. Hope you liked the concept of hypothesis. We will discuss more on null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis in the upcoming video. Keep watching. Do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.